Good afternoon and thanks for having me. First of all, sorry for not being able to present at this meeting. As you could imagine, my commitments as parliamentarian at the end of the term require me quite a lot. However, I did not want to miss the opportunity to briefly contribute in this CALIPER LeTSGEPs joint final conference. I've been asked first to talk about the latest political developments such as Women on Boards Directive and the Istanbul Convention and the EU's accessions to it. Equality, as you know, between women and men is one of the objectives of the European Union and stated in articles such as 157.3 of the Treaty of Functioning of the European Union. But the origin of equality policy in the European Union can be traced back to the late 1980s. However, this European directive, the previous one, had not been, I would say, gender equality policies, but more sort of employability policies, more oriented women to get really into the labor market, but did not manage to fully remove the foundations of the causes of inequalities, maintaining women's activity, unemployment rates lower and higher rates of unemployment, part-time or temporary employment, and a huge gender wage gap, as you know. Despite this, the simple incorporation of women into the labor market, well, I will not say simple exactly, has broken many patriarchal structures with positive and visible effects, such as finding more women in leadership positions, as the first European Women Commissioner for Equality, and both a women president of the European Parliament and a first women president of the European Commission. The new Commission, in fact, raised expectations for progress with when presenting the Equality Strategy 2020-2025. And within the strategy, there are two noteworthy initiatives. The one, Women in Boards Directive, on the Istanbul Convention, that are both already finished, and I would like to highlight in this moment. The Women in Boards, introduced 15 years ago in November 2012 by the European Commission, and aimed to address gender balance among non-executive directors in listed companies. After a decade-long deadlock in the Council, the directive officially named the gender balance in the non-executive management of listed companies was, as I say, adopted in November last year, 2022. An incomprehensive delay, I would say. But nothing is done ready. Now we are discussing the amendments of the treaties and having, I would say, because I'm the rapporteur of the opinion for FAN, a very hard time to include gender parity as a principle in the treaties. So the battle did not end yet, since it is probably that such principle will not be included. But we are fighting for that. But at least we have the Women on Boards already done. And regarding the Istanbul Convention, that, as you know, is a Council of Europe treaty introduced also 12 years ago in 2011, and aimed to prevent and eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls, defining such violence as a violation of human rights. However, the European Union only recently endorsed joint accession to the Convention in May this year. Moreover, this ratification is limited to the areas where the European Union has jurisdiction, judicial cooperation in criminal matters and asylum. Despite approved by a large majority here in Parliament, individual ratification still pending for Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, and Slovakia. So, regarding such pending ratification, I would like to highlight there is a clear relationship between the erosion of democracies, of the rule of law, and the harm of women and their rights. Erosion of women's rights is a threat to democracy, so are the risk of backlash and rise of anti-gender movement. So it cannot come to a surprise that women, we are the ones electorally, and not only the ones who are stopping the far right, now in some places, unfortunately, in coalition with the moderate right. The second issue I've been asked to deal with is precisely the risk of backlash and rise of anti-gender movements due to current political forces spread in Europe. The anti-gender movements go beyond mere conservatism or religious response to feminist ideas and are not limited to specific countries or political factions. It is an organized force in the European Union and I would say worldwide. And it challenges established truth like the presence of violence targeted women. New data has been documenting the pushback against gender equality and women's rights, witnessing the rise of anti-gender movement across various EU national, adversely affecting institutional, legal and policy frameworks designed to combat gender-based violence. Also, the EIGE, the European Institute for Gender Equality. This anti-gender movement are a collective movement serving a reactionary agenda that opposes gender equality, women's rights, LGBTIQ+ rights, are more that employ those causes as a means to gain power, often reaching far beyond their initial aims. Since they seek to overturn existing laws on basic human rights, this problem must be understood as a risk to democracy in Europe and European values. Patriarchy is centuries long and always appealing to common sense based on habit, on how things has always been. So they has kind of they are a kind of ahead of all of us, unfortunately. And finally, I would like to share with you my own personal experience in academia in connection to my current role as a member of the European Parliament. And the thing I would like to share a very simple message in that. To study the patriarchal foundation of our institutions, it is useful, very, very useful. For instance, to study how the enlightened social contract was an exclusive pact between men, which excluded us women from the outset from citizenship, knowledge, employment, or education, or our welfare state were also based in a social deal that left the naturalization of the social mandate of care as something that relates only us women. At the end, everything perpetuating gender inequalities and naturalizing them. This has obviously generated inequality in our training, in the definition of what matters or not, what is value and or what is insignificant, as well as the object and subject of knowledge, making a public space, our cosmovision, not gender neutral. The space through which we transit daily is crossed by gender gaps that hinder or exclude, and in many cases, informally, women from political power, opinion, knowledge, generation, etc. This is precisely why we need a transversal gender perspective and gender mainstreaming in all areas, curricula and disciplines, something I have been studying, analyzing, and working on for many years. Because knowledge, it is essential for transforming our society. So a science-based policy and decision-making should count with a non-androcentric based science production, as acting as male experience and constraints are universally why we women are the exception to the norm, when on the other hand, we are the majority of the population. In order to conclude, I will say that despite all the progress that has been made, and they are important and we really need to highlight it, gender mainstreaming in public policies, the budget and the functioning, for instance, of the European Union institutions are still unfinished business for the European Union. And to this end, it is necessary, I will be very briefly just to mention some issues that I think are very important. To build a non-androcentric knowledge, to include gender parity as a principle in our treaties, to advance on gender mainstreaming and gender parity in order to bring equality to policies beyond equality policies in all policy cycles, including especially on budgeting. We need also to constitutionalize in our treaties reproductive health and reproductive rights as human rights in our fundamental test, and to include all forms of violence against women as Eurocrime. to fight economic discrimination and advance towards a social organization of care where care does not fall in a majority unpaid and unrecognized way on women. It is essential to provide a mechanism for this interdependence and the care work associated with it to develop in a way that respects all rights and it is not exploitative. The economy must be transformed for that and moving towards a progressive economic system that works for women, for all of us in all of our diversity. So thank you very much, and thank you once again for not being there with you. Thanks.